list at the immigration department. I was advised that not so long ago, people went there to travel and were told that they are on a no-fly list and they're not charged with anything. They could not travel. You have to travel back to town. These are clear violations of people's rights. But as I indicated yesterday, it's not an isolated incident where they squatted there, because remember, not so long ago, the complaints authorities said we are breaking the law. You have the violation of rights of policemen who are charged with criminal offenses. Policemen who are not charged. In the case of the ones who are charged, since they go to court, they are arbitrarily dismissed. Arbitrarily, the courts have ruled repeatedly on that you can't dismiss a man just like that. You have a right to be heard. There's a presumption of innocence. So if a person is charged with a criminal offense, he's presumed innocent until proven guilty. Yet the squatter has been dismissing people. You have 2-3 young constables dismissed earlier this year. I think it was in that Borby's fiasco where the officer lost his firearm. You have as recent as this month, I know of one person who was dismissed arbitrarily, nothing. The powers vested in me, they dismissed. And the courts have ruled repeatedly that it cannot operate in that fashion. I mentioned when I was the chairman of the Police Service Commission, I had an interaction with the the Attorney General's chamber. And they said it can't. They were pleading because they said in all of these matters, all where people are dismissed under those circumstances, the challenge is they go to court, they win. They win because the thing is unconstitutional, it is illegal, and yet still in these modern times, this is what is going on. And Mr. Patterson indicated, and I fully agreed with him, he said that I do not accept the Guyana Police Force apology, nor do I believe them. The absurdity of the reason, if you cannot put someone on a list unless you went to court. How is it possible that their name is there when you did not go to the court? And you say it is total drivel. And I agree with him. I agree totally and fully with Mr. Patterson. It is wrong. It is wrong. It is a continued constitutional violation of people's rights. You know, let me tell you of my experience. I was charged, as I mentioned yesterday, conspiracy to commit fraud and sexual assault on the 19th of May, 2021. I appeared in court on the first occasion on the 15th of October, 2021. And I was due to travel shortly after. And I spoke to my lawyer, Mr. Hughes, and I said, you know, these people are going to try to prevent me from leaving the country. So I want us to go to the court to get an order permitting me to travel. He said, good idea. Because I know the operation, I know the wickedness in them. I know the wickedness. At the time, the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer was Nigel Appy, who was just a rubber stamp. So I knew that he had nothing to do, as he had said in this same matter, by anything political, he can't get involved. So I knew they would have done that. We made an application to the court. The application was ordered by the Chief Justice, right? The Attorney General himself, Anil Nandlal, appeared to oppose the application. In other words, he said I mustn't travel. The legal arguments were advanced, and the court permitted me to travel. I traveled, the court imposed certain restrictions. I traveled, and I came back when the court told me to come back. I had to leave on a second occasion. I made a second application. And again, the Attorney General Chambers objected to my traveling. Even though I had gone, I came in on the 13th of October, 2021, voluntarily to attend court. I got permission to travel. I left. I returned as directed by the court. And when I wanted to leave a second time, again, they objected. And Justice Navendra Singh granted permission to me to leave, to come back at a particular time. I came back. And on the third occasion, I had to apply again to leave the jurisdiction. On a third occasion. This time, they did not oppose. And this time, I got what is basically an open-ended permission to leave and to return. So that is, I know the system. And I'm saying again, the fact that they're trying to throw ranks under the bus. Those ranks at the immigration department are very efficient. And the fact that they allowed Mr. David Patterson to pass the immigration, to stamp his passport with that exit stamp for him to pass, means that there was nothing in the system saying that he should not travel. I am further saying that anything that went into the system, if anything went there at all, I suspect there was nothing in the system. It's just somebody call and tell you don't allow him to travel. I suspect that there's nothing in the system. Somebody called and said don't allow him to travel. And I'm saying further that the only people who could have done that would have been the Deputy Chief Immigration Officer, Mr. Superintendent Stephen Telford, or the squatter, who is the Chief Immigration Officer, Acting Commissioner, Assistant Commissioner Clifford Ike. Those are the only two. Because I further say, and this is for the benefit of these people who are making comments about that, that even if someone outside of the police system would have called, the duty officer at Timeri, who maybe a junior officer, assistant superintendent, chief inspector, whatever it is, they are not going to take that type of instruction from no outside person, whether it's a politician or not. Even if the president called, they would have gotten on immediately to the deputy chief immigration officer or the commissioner itself. They would have gotten on to someone who is senior to say, hey, this is what is going on. That is a discipline. They are professionals. Even though they might look young to many of us, they are professionals. They are well trained. They know how to deal with these issues. And to attempt now to throw them under the bus to talk about the OPR. And let me go back to the OPR thing that they're saying here. They're saying, Mr. Conway dealt with, going back to the OPR thing, to say OPR will investigate why the name was not removed immediately. That's OPR work. So you want the OPR investigate the superintendent, the deputy chief immigration officer. You want the OPR investigate the chief immigration officer, who is the commissioner. You want the OPR investigate the crime chief, because the crime chief can also go through a process to have persons put on a watch list. So those are the people. This is just BS, trying to placate people to say, oh, where we investigate. Investigating what? Investigating what? The order to prevent Mr. Patterson from traveling would have come from, as the rank said, he said, I said, higher up. Higher up got to be the deputy chief immigration officer. And I am sure, again, Stephen Telford, the deputy chief immigration officer, would not have taken it on himself to stop Mr. Patterson from traveling. Put him in neck on a block. It's not a good thing to do when you're dealing with individuals, but I'm saying that he would not have done that on his own. Someone senior to him, and the only one senior to him in the system in this respect, got to be either the crime chief or the chief immigration officer himself to tell them. Because any other officer tell them so, even if it's admin or operations or special branch, they say, no, this got to come through a particular route before it is acted upon. I know the system, I was in the system for a long time, and even though the system has changed, I believe that that part still obtains. That part still obtains. Mr. Patterson says he's going to sue, and I agree that he should. The whole thing with this is that you're going to sue. How much money the court? The court will rule that they're wrong. The judge will say that they're wrong. They violated his constitutional right. And the judge is going to award some as damages, but whatever money you're talking about. And what's going to happen? The judge said, we're going to award a couple $1 million to Mr. Patterson. And who will pay? It's us, the taxpayer. We, the taxpayers, will have to pay the money. Because they're not going to, whether it's the chief immigration officer, whether it's the deputy chief immigration officer, they're going to come out of their pocket. They're not going to even be sanctioned. Because as we have seen in recent times, when you commit this egregious act, you get rewarded. Ramana arrests a lawyer for advising her client to remain silent. The man get promoted. The same squatter dismissing people arbitrarily. The complaints authority say you violating the law. What happened? The man get unlimited extension, right? So when you commit this act, you are rewarded because that is what the administration wants. The administration is not perturbed by these things. They get deep pockets. However, the court order, they're going to just pay the money and we move on. Because we allow it to happen. As I've said, we have a lot of people whose names are on the watch list, a lot of people who have been prevented. I don't think they have the wherewithal. They don't have the resources to challenge the system. But I think the lawyers, and I'm saying if anyone knows anyone who was prevented like that, tell them to reach out to some of these lawyers. I'm sure some of the lawyers are going to do it pro bono, man. I'm sure reach out. You must get some lawyer to assist. And it's not they're not assisting you, they're assisting all of us. to say that these acts, these illegal, unconstitutional acts, cannot be allowed to continue. They talk about democracy, they talk about rule of law. The Attorney General likes to talk about the rule of law and all of that. In a democracy where the rule of law operates, these things are not going to go unpunished, should not go unpunished. So I urge all to make sure that when these things happen to you, you take it up. I know it might be difficult because people don't want to be victimized, especially if you're working with the government. You don't want to be victimized and all that. But buddy, at some stage, you got to make up your mind to stand for your right. You stand for something or you will fall for anything. And let me bring in Mr. Conway if he wants to say anything further on this issue. See anything further you want to say?
Just to say that the bottom line is, Paul, that the police has a illegal list. You call it a stop order, a no-fly, whatever you call it, to prevent persons from leaving the country. Although, according to the Constitution, the court has got to decide that. And I'll tell you something. Last night, my wife and I, we were discussing. We are cricket fans. She's more a fanatic than I am. And we are discussing plans to go to the next World Cup, the final. I don't know which country it will be played because I think the ICC hasn't decided that. We went to Barbados when they had the last World Cup, and we went to several Caribbean countries and looked at cricket. And then she said, you know something, boy? Suppose you name them on this blacklist. Suppose you name them on the which list. She said, boy, you better check it out before we make we proper plans, and then when we're ready to go to this World Cup final, you're prevented from going. So, personally, I'm going to test the system. I'm going to